Hey, how's it going? And today I'm going to show you how to create a barter system or a pawn shop system. I don't know what you want to call it exactly, but basically once the player collects a particular item, they bring it back and then they get something in exchange for that. Really interesting verse code in here. I want to walk you through the code, but before I do that, I wanted to show you what I have set up in the scene. So let's go into Fortnite in creative mode here. And so, of course, I've got my player spawners, and there's my verse device. And then I've got a button right there. And then over here, 3 item spawners here. And that gives out a key card, an airstrike, and a nanite something. And then over here is an airstrike, an apple, and a balloon. And those are our item grantor. And then we got our conditional button. So this conditional button goes with this grantor. This conditional button goes with this grantor. And that conditional button goes with this. So if I can step back and look, we've got 3 conditional buttons, 3 item spawners, and 3 item grantors. And essentially, if you turn in the card, that meets the condition set over here in the button, and then you get an airstrike. And then if you turn in a airstrike, you get an apple, and that logic is all based in the conditional button there. And then last, if you turn in a nanite graphite thing over there, you get 3 balloons. And also, each conditional button is going to award, this one's going to award 10 points, this awards 20 points, and this awards 30 points. And I'm just doing that so you can see what we're doing in the code. So what we're really doing is when we press this button over here, we're going to cycle through, we're going to loop through all of the conditional buttons and see if any conditions have been met. If the person has that particular item, then it triggers the item grantor to grant it. And what's most interesting about this is that we're actually going to be going through an array of classes, an array of a class actually, and I wasn't even aware that you could do that. Now notice my verse device here. This is an array called combos, and this is inside of a class. Each conditional button is tied to an item grantor, and there's our button. So that's all we have in here. But this is interesting because combos is an array, but it's an array of the class. Let's go into the code and take a look at this. And there's not a lot of code in here. That's so interesting about this is there's not a lot of code in here, but it's a lot to take in a sense. So anyway, we have a creative device here, and I call it status checker device. And we have an at editable. We create an array of the checker class, and the checker class is right down here. And any time that we put an at editable in a class, we have to use a concrete specifier, which means it has to be instantiated. And inside that checker class, we're putting 2 at editables, one for the conditional button and one for the item grantor. So that's really interesting. I didn't even know you could do that. Then we have a button, our button device, and then on begin play, we have our button, once it's pressed, subscribe to this check status event. And what this does is this takes in an agent from the button and it goes through our array here, item by item. And for each item that it pulls up, it calls the status checker function down here. And what this does, if the conditional button has all the items it's supposed to have, right, then we activate the conditional button. And then we just threw this code in here to show you what it's capable of doing. Like we can get the item score. So each conditional button can have a score. So I'm saying get the item score and assign it to score, this variable score. And like I said, the first conditional button is 10, the second is 20, and the third is 30. I wanted to put this in here just to show you one thing that we do on begin play is that we call here. So what we do here is we actually use this to set a reference to our verse device. We're grabbing the item in the array and then we're using that reference to call into the checker class, and we send in our verse device, and then we set this variable here called verse device right here, and that creates a reference to our actual verse device. Once you have a reference to your verse device, one of the things you can do is you can hide it. So the first time this comes through, we're actually going to hide the verse device from our game. So I just left that in there to show you what you can do with a verse device reference and how to get a verse device reference. And then here, if we are successful, then we're going to print out a string saying what the score is. So if we come into the conditional button device, here you'll see one of the things we can do is here. It's here somewhere. It's get score, get item score right here. You'll see down here there's a spot where we can make a score here. Right here. So there's this option here. So score on key item 1 consumed. And then here there's 20 on that second one, and here there's 30. So all these are pretty much left to the default device, except they're all requiring a certain item. Like this one's requiring the key card, and this one is requiring the airstrike, and this one is requiring whatever that, I guess it's called goop or whatever. So then that's the thing that's required. The other thing is on the item granters, they're all pretty much on the default too, except I did turn off, there's one setting here on the item granter. It is, we have it set to clear inventory, and there's a, and I turned off grant on cycle. So those are, other than that, it's all on the default. And then here you choose whatever you want to give as a reward. So that's essentially all the code right there. I'll go ahead and build this code, and then I'll push those changes, and then I'll be back as soon as it's uploaded. Okay, so we're ready to start, and let's see what this looks like. Okay, so you see we don't see our item granters. Our items spawn in there. Okay, so if I come over here and I get the key card, so in the game it would be go get a key card or whatever, okay? And now I have the key card, and then I would come over here to a store or whatever to cash in, and I would hit E, and I get a 10 points, and notice in my inventory now I have an airstrike. So I can just throw that. There's my airstrike. And then if I come back over here, and let's say I get this airstrike, I think I get an apple for this. Then let's say I have to return somewhere to cash it in or trade it in. I come over here, and this could be another button somewhere, and I press enter, interact, and I've got 20 points, and you'll see I've got my apple. And so if I hit, I guess 5, I can throw it. There's my apple. And then if I come over here and I grab the alien nanites, that's what it was, and I hit E, this should give me 3 balloons. Well, notice if I walk over here, I guess I can still interact with that button, but it didn't give me anything, because that's not in the code. So let me come back over here and get another one. Get another, and then if I come over here to the button, so I might make those conditional buttons not visible in the game. And here, and if I go E, you'll see there I got 3 balloons. So it all seems to be working fine. So anyway, I hope you found this of some interest. That's all I had for today. I hope you found it helpful. Take care. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.